Right now, Senator Bernie Sanders has stepped in the room on Ebro
Yes.
in the morning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Senator Bernie Sanders, how you doing this morning, sir?
I'm great. My voice is not so good, but other than that, great.
Well, the Bronx had you wilding out yesterday. You turned it up in the Bronx.
That was unbelievable.
Wasn't
We
it
had
amazing?
18,000 people out.
Now, why did you choose the Bronx?
First thought, it is one of the lowest income communities in the United States of America. And I wanted everybody to understand that we're going to stand up for some of the poorest people in this country, people whose pain is not being heard, and that's why we began there.
Amazing turnout. We love you here at Ebro in the morning.
Thank you.
But I have to be honest that I've been very direct and concerned that some of your positions I think are extreme. And for that group, the theys as we call them, those other people who aren't as sympathetic and empathetic to the circumstances of low-income people. And I've said on this program that while I love Bernie very, very much and everything, his resume, where he comes from, the work he's done, I love all of it. I love the fact that you're affiliated with a friend of our show, Killer Mike. We love that.
Yeah, Killer Mike is doing a fantastic job for us.
But I wanted to hear you detail for the listeners who haven't been to your site,
Good.
how are we going to pay for
Thank
the
you.
things you're proposing?
It's a very fair question. First point that we have to look at is what has been happening in this country in the last 30 years, Ebro. And what's been happening is there has been a massive transfer of wealth from the middle class to the top 1/10 of 1%. We're talking about trillions of dollars. That's the context. Very rich getting much richer, corporations enjoying huge profits, middle class shrinking, 47 million people living in poverty. Okay. Point number two, let's look at the issues. I happen to believe that in the year 2016, when we talk about education, it's no longer good enough to talk about public education in the context of first grade through 12th grade. Okay, technology has changed, the world has changed, people need more education. I do not want to see kids leaving school $40, $50, $60,000 in debt.
Yes.
And spending,
I'm sorry, yes, I'm really passionate about this.
She still has student
A
debt.
lot of
Yes.
us, most of us are still paying student loans and struggling with it.
Exactly. People can't buy a car, they can't get a house, they can't
Yeah.
get married, they can't have kids. Why? What crime did you commit? You went out and you got an education, right? It's what you were
Absolutely.
supposed to do. Okay. So in the richest country in the history of the world, with massive income and wealth inequality, you got working class kids paying off huge debts, and sometimes for decades. So what do I believe? I believe that we should make public colleges and universities tuition free. It's not a radical idea. Germany does it, Scandinavia does it. Right now, free education, first grade to 12th grade, world has changed. Make it a free tuition in public colleges and universities. Number two, we got to deal with student debt, allowing those young people to refinance their loans at the lowest interest rates they can find. Now, you asked the question, how are you going to pay for that?
Yeah, where's this
Yeah.
money coming from?
Where's the money going to come from? Okay, let me tell you where. When the greed and recklessness and illegal behavior on Wall Street drove this country into a major recession, what happened?
Obama bailed him out, or we bailed him out. The
Well, it
taxpayer
started with
bailed
Bush.
him out.
That's exactly
Yeah,
right.
the taxpayer.
Taxpayers bailed them out.
Yeah.
So I think that today Wall Street's doing quite well. We should impose a tax on Wall Street speculation, which is a good idea for a number of reasons.
Okay.
That will raise more than enough money to provide free tuition at public colleges and universities and lower student debt. But what all of this is about, Ebro, is standing up to people who are not usually stood up to.
That's right.
All right. They destroy the economy, they get a tax break. And you get working class kids that go into college, they have debt for 20 years. So we are going to stand up to Wall Street.
So, when Obama got in office, and you remember the kids were out here, the 99% were protesting on Wall Street. Remember that? And that was, we started to see the activation using social media, et cetera, to start getting at the issue you just talked about. But what I noticed, I'm in a high tax bracket. What I noticed was hiring slowdowns. What I noticed was credit lines getting harder to get. What I noticed was, when we jammed up the banks or talked about jamming up the banks when Obama got in office, I saw slowdowns in with black men getting jobs and dealing with the day-to-day stress. And I'm afraid that your proposal sometimes will make, and we call them here, the theys, start to jam low-income people up again. How do we manage that where we don't have people taking out their anger on low-income people and freezing up credit lines and small businesses not being able to get going?
We live in a democratic society.
Yeah.
What you're saying is that a handful of very wealthy people can punish a lot of people
Yes.
because we're standing up to them. Well, I mean, I understand that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the way it has to be. I am more worried about the fact I was in Flint, Michigan a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
You got kids
Getting
whose
poisoned.
that's right. Their cognitive capabilities are being destroyed.
They're almost the pipeline to prison is through the lead in this water because these kids will not have behavioral issues. And they'll
You
end
got
up-
it. You
Yes.
got it. I talked. Jane and I
Yep.
talked to parents. It was beyond breaking your heart. You could not believe
It's
it.
happening in Newark, New Jersey
Okay,
right now.
All right. So here's the point. Do we address that issue? And if we address it, how do you address it? Should I ask working class people to pay more in taxes? Here's the reality of America today. And again, we got to lay it on the table and have the guts to deal with it. Top 1/10 of 1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. 20 wealthiest people own more wealth than the bottom half of America, 150 million people. One family, Walton family, owns more wealth than the bottom 40%, 58%.
That's Walmart, yes?
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. And they don't pay their workers a living wage.
And they put their businesses in communities that end up killing the small
You
business.
got
and
it.
then
You got it. All
the
right.
and here in New York City,
Hey, bro.
the mom and pop is struggling. Rosenberg, go.
Senator, honored to talk to you. I first heard about you. My great pacifist teacher, Coleman McCarthy, taught me about you when I was in high school. And now we have the situation where you have a legitimate opportunity to really win the presidency, and you're already impacting politics. Is there a part of you that is really eager to get that nomination so you can fight back against the bully that is Donald Trump? Because it's been frustrating to watch him bully one person after another off of the stage without having any real content. Is that something that motivates you to get in there and have a chance to really go with him?
Well, it's not a personal thing. I mean, Donald Trump, it would be beyond disastrous for this country and this world. if
And
Donald Trump-
embarrassing.
And embarrassing. I mean, you can't go around insulting Mexicans and Latinos and women and Muslims and be president of the United States. It would be internationally embarrassing and a real disaster. Now, I'm very happy that almost every poll that's out there has me way, way ahead of him. Last CNN poll had me 20 points ahead of him. And by the way, a much larger gap than Hillary Clinton was defeating him. But it's not just, anything personal about defeating Trump. As I mentioned to Ebro, we have huge crises facing this country.
Real deal.
We got to place them on the table. And what Ebro was saying right now is, what happens when you stand up to the people who have the power? That's what you're saying, are you not?
We watch it here on this. We talked about how when there became a black president, one of my fears, and this was many years ago, was that the establishment would begin to pick on young black men. And we've seen more and more and more police murders. And here in New York City, it's very real, the way you get picked on when you're just in your own neighborhood.
Right.
And I firmly believe that there is unfortunately, a white male stigma with working or seeing a black man as a leader. I also believe there's one with seeing a woman as a leader. Right? There's a stigma because most people haven't had a boss as a woman or a black man as a leader in their life. They've never seen it.
Look, no question about that. I mean, what we have seen since Barack Obama has been president is a level of hatred. The so-called birther movement, which Trump was involved in. You know what that was about? This was not to say we disagree with Obama. Fine, you can disagree with anybody, right? This was to delegitimize the president of the United States.
Disrespect.
More than disrespect, to say he is not really the president because his father was not born. He is not an American citizen. He wasn't born in America. Now, here's a funny story, okay? My father was born in Poland. I'm the son of an immigrant. Barack Obama is the son of an immigrant. His father was born in Kenya. My father in Poland. Nobody asked me for my birth certificate. Think it has something to do with the color of my skin, maybe?
Right.
I do. All right. But bottom line is, you've raised a very important question, Ebro, and that is, should we stand up to the 1%, to Wall Street, to corporate America, to the corporate media, to the big money interest? I think we've got to do that. And I think if we don't do that, you're going to see the middle class continue to decline. You're going to see...
Which hurts our workforce.
Yeah, that's right. You're going to see kids not get the education they need, and you're right. They don't get the education. What happens to them? They're out on the street. You got drugs, you got jail, right?
Yep.
Okay, we got to deal with that. So, people may disagree with me, but that's what I believe.
I don't think
Senator,
anybody disagrees with what you're saying. I think people are selfish in America. Selfish is people in America be very greedy and concerned about their own pocket. What you're asking people to do is care about America and care about the greater good and the greater path. And I think that's where we slip sometimes. Is we
do
don't
slip
care about each
sometimes.
other.
I'm not so sure. I'm sorry. Somebody else wanted to jump in.
Rosenberg, go ahead. What were we going to say?
No, I was going to say, Senator, speaking exactly of that, though, if listen, I believe you still have an opportunity here with New York and California out there. But just like you said, in terms of everyone being involved and really caring for America, there's going to be decisions to be made about where this goes if we're not able to get you in office. And the other day there was a lot of controversy because Susan Sarandon said she didn't know what she would do and whether or not she would vote Democratic. This is far from over from you. But if the time comes when you have to move on, will you encourage Bernie supporters to vote for whoever the Democratic nominee
Look,
is?
I will do